You ever get that deep, unsettling feeling? Like no matter where you go or who you're with, you just don't belong? Like you're an outsider wandering through a world that was never really built for you? What if I told you this feeling isn't a curse but a sign of something far more profound? A secret message from your own psyche? Today, we're diving into a banned-forgotten interview with Carl Jung, where he reveals the hidden reasons behind that gnawing sense of alienation and how it could be your greatest path to self-discovery. Carl Jung, one of the most brilliant minds in psychology, spent his life exploring the depths of the human mind. Not just the conscious thoughts we know, but the mysterious unconscious forces that shape our experience. In this rare and controversial interview, Jung speaks directly to that feeling of not belonging, a topic he considered central to the human experience, but rarely discussed so openly. According to Jung, feeling like you don't belong is often rooted in a conflict between your inner world and the outer expectations imposed by society. From early childhood, we learn roles and behaviors to fit in, to be accepted. But inside, a deeper self, your true nature, may be struggling to break free. This clash between your authentic self and societal norms creates an invisible tension, manifesting as loneliness, isolation, and the sense of being fundamentally out of place. What's more, Jung explained that this feeling is tied to the concept of the shadow. The shadow is the part of you that contains everything you deny or reject about yourself. Traits, desires, fears, things deemed unacceptable by the world around you. Because society demands conformity, many of these parts get pushed into the unconscious. Yet they remain alive, influencing your behavior and emotional state, often causing that inexplicable alienation. When your shadow remains unacknowledged, it acts like a magnet for feelings of not belonging. You sense there's something different or wrong about you, but you can't pinpoint what it is. It's not just social exclusion, it's an internal division. The more you suppress your true self, the stronger this feeling becomes. Jung believed that this discomfort is actually a vital signal. It's your psyche's way of urging you to undertake a journey of individuation, a process of becoming whole by integrating your shadow and discovering your authentic identity. In other words, the feeling of not belonging is not a sentence to loneliness, but an invitation to self-realization. But this path is not easy. Society often punishes those who stray from the norm. You might face rejection, criticism, or confusion from others who don't understand your need for authenticity. That's why many people choose to numb or ignore this feeling, settling instead for superficial acceptance at the cost of their inner truth. Yet, as Jung warned, denying this inner call leads to what he called psychic illness. When the authentic self is suppressed, neurosis, anxiety, and depression can arise. These are not just medical terms, but symptoms of a fractured soul desperate for healing. In this banned interview, Jung also reveals how dreams and symbols serve as guides on this journey. Your unconscious communicates through vivid images and metaphors, pushing you toward what you really need: acceptance of your whole self. Paying attention to these messages is crucial for anyone struggling with a sense of not belonging. What's striking is Jung's compassionate view. Feeling like an outsider is not a personal flaw but a universal experience. Everyone encounters moments where they feel disconnected, but the difference lies in whether you choose to face that feeling or hide from it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your sense of alienation is a powerful indicator of deeper transformation, how to recognize the signs of your shadow calling for integration, and what steps you can take today to begin healing this ancient wound. The journey to belonging begins within. Carl Jung believed that people who feel like they don't belong are not broken. They are simply more awake, more sensitive, more aware of the artificial roles society tries to force upon them. He explained that our modern world is structured in a way that rewards conformity, following rules, fitting in, staying in line. But for those with a deeper connection to their inner life, this world feels hollow. You begin to notice the scripts people are following, the fake smiles, the polite conversations that say nothing, the constant striving for status or validation, and it all feels foreign. You walk into a room and feel out of sync with the energy. You hear others talk and realize you're thinking on a completely different wavelength. You might even start questioning whether something is wrong with you, but in Jung's view, it's not a flaw. It's the emergence of your true self, the self that exists beyond social masks. Jung warned that this awakening often brings pain. You start to see through illusions, family dynamics, toxic friendships, cultural conditioning, and you can't unsee it. You start to outgrow people, conversations, and environments that once felt normal. This stage is what Jung referred to as the night-sea journey, a dark and lonely voyage through the unconscious, where the ego is stripped down and tested. This is the part where many turn back, because it hurts. You feel disconnected, isolated, lost. But Jung taught that this stage is necessary. It's a sacred part of individuation, the process of becoming your true self, not who the world told you to be. In this rare interview, Jung revealed something few psychologists dare to say out loud. If you feel like you don't belong, it may be because you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to see beyond. He didn't mean that in some self-righteous, elitist way. Not at all. He meant that the call to wholeness is not for the faint of heart. It's a deep spiritual and psychological challenge that demands honesty, solitude, and courage. And yet, the reward is profound, because as you peel away false identities, you start to feel something new. Not the belonging that comes from fitting in, but the belonging that comes from being. Being real, being whole, being connected to something ancient and sacred inside of you. That sense of isolation starts to change shape. It becomes a kind of sacred solitude, a space where your soul can breathe. You begin to prefer solitude over shallow connection. You crave meaning, not noise. You want conversations that touch the soul, not just skim the surface. Jung also spoke about synchronicities, those meaningful coincidences that seem to guide you when you're lost. In times of deep disconnection, these signs often appear. A book finds you. A stranger says exactly what you needed to hear. A dream points the way forward. These are not accidents. Jung saw them as messages from the unconscious, proof that you're not as alone as you think. The universe is speaking. The self is calling. Your soul is alive, trying to reach you. At this stage, many people are tempted to fall back into their old identities. The pressure to conform can be overwhelming, especially when your awakening threatens the comfort zones of people around you. Friends may distance themselves. Family might not understand. Even therapists, Jung warned, can try to normalize you, treating your deeper insights as symptoms rather than signs of growth. But Jung believed the only true healing comes from within, from having the courage to become who you really are, even if that means standing alone, because ultimately, that's how real belonging is born. Not from the outside in, but from the inside out. It begins when you stop betraying yourself just to be accepted. When you stop pretending. When you say, "This is who I am. I'd rather be alone in truth than surrounded in illusion." And paradoxically, that's when the right people start to show up. You start attracting others who are also walking this path. Misfits, healers, artists, deep thinkers. People who don't just want to fit in, they want to awaken. People who see you, really see you, because they've seen themselves. Jung said, loneliness does not come from having no people around you. It comes from being unable to communicate the things that are important to you. But when you embrace your inner truth, you begin to find others who speak your soul's language. And that's a kind of belonging far deeper than anything you've ever known. So if you're watching this right now and you feel like you don't belong, understand that you're not broken. You're just further along the path than most people realize. This path will challenge you, yes, but it will also set you free. Because belonging isn't about shrinking yourself to fit into someone else's world. It's about expanding into your full truth and creating a world where your soul feels at home. You may not realize it yet, but the very feeling that you don't belong is sacred. It's not a flaw. It's evidence that your soul is still alive in a world trying to numb you. Carl Jung once said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." But what he didn't say, at least not outright, is that most people never claim that privilege. Because it costs something, it costs comfort, illusions, approval, safety. Belonging in the traditional sense often requires that you hide pieces of yourself to fit into a mold that was never made for you. And that, Jung argued, is where the deepest suffering begins. In this Lost Conversation, Jung explained something chilling. The greatest danger to the soul isn't pain, it's false belonging. Being surrounded by people, yet still feeling unseen. Being praised for a version of you that isn't real. Being loved for the mask you wear. He called it spiritual exile. You might look like you're thriving on the outside, but inside your soul is screaming. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you smile when you're aching inside. Every time you hide your truth just to avoid judgment. You exile a part of yourself. Jung taught that every soul has a blueprint, a psychic DNA. You came into this world not to conform, but to embody that blueprint. And when you ignore it, the psyche retaliates. The sense of not belonging intensifies. Depression creeps in. Anxiety spikes. Your body starts whispering what your soul is screaming. This isn't your path. And here's the paradox. You might think you're alone, but there are millions of people walking around feeling exactly the same. Everyone wearing masks. Everyone hiding. Everyone afraid to break the illusion. Jung believed our collective sickness isn't individual at all. It's systemic. A civilization that teaches people to abandon their inner truth just to be accepted will always create outcasts. But what if the outcast is actually the pioneer? What if those who don't belong are actually the ones meant to create a new way of being? This was Jung's most controversial belief, and the reason this interview was buried. He said that those who feel displaced, misunderstood, disconnected, they are not meant to adjust, they are meant to transform. They are carriers of the unconscious, seers of the unseen. They hold the potential to reconnect the modern world with the ancient wisdom of the soul, and that responsibility is heavy. That's why your life might feel so intense, so conflicted, so full of contradictions. You sense things others ignore. You question what others accept. You can't just go along with things for the sake of it. You see behind the curtain, and once you see, you can't unsee. Jung saw this sensitivity not as a disorder, but as a kind of spiritual sensitivity, an attunement to the deeper layers of reality. He described this group as the carriers of transformation, people who feel like misfits not because they're broken, but because they're ahead of their time. In the interview, Jung warns that this path can become dangerous if misunderstood. If you keep trying to force yourself to fit where you don't belong, you risk psychic collapse. You become what he called a divided self, someone whose inner and outer lives are at war. And this war will not end until you surrender to the truth. You were not born to fit in. You were born to wake up. Wake up to your unique pattern. Wake up to the voice within. Wake up to the fact that you don't need permission to be who you already are. When you stop chasing belonging and start building inner alignment, something incredible begins to happen. You begin to attract your true tribe, not the crowd you had to impress, but the people who see you, hear you, resonate with you on a soul level. These people often appear in quiet moments, during solitude, in the stillness where your authentic self starts to rise. And suddenly, you'll realize that real belonging was never about a group or a place. It was about truth, inner alignment, wholeness. Jung said that every soul must confront what he called the lonely truth, the realization that no one can walk your path for you. No one can give you your identity. You must claim it, own it, embody it, and that journey requires courage. because the world will push back. You will be misunderstood, misjudged, even mocked. But don't let that stop you. Because the people who once laughed at you, they'll start to wonder how you found peace in a world that's starving for it. And the very ones who dismissed you may come asking how to find what you found. That's the power of claiming your difference. You stop chasing the crowd. You become the signal, the light, the living proof that it's possible to be free. So if you've spent years wondering why you don't belong, ask a different question. What if you're here to build something no one's ever seen before? What if your difference isn't a defect, but a direction? What if your alienation is actually divine assignment? The road back to yourself won't be easy, but it will be worth it. Because when you finally stand in your truth, the longing to belong disappears, and something far more powerful rises in its place: purpose. Carl Jung once said, "Your visions will become clear only when you can look into your own heart. Who looks outside dreams, who looks inside awakens." And that's the final revelation for those who never felt like they belonged. You were never meant to belong out there, because your belonging was always in here, not in a group, not in a role, not in a label, but in your essence. This is the moment the soul awakens. In this last portion of the band interview, Jung speaks with a kind of quiet thunder. He says that those who feel like strangers in the world are often closest to their true self. Not because they've found comfort, but because they've felt every discomfort and refused to numb it. They've stayed awake in a world that sleeps. Jung was asked, what should someone do when they feel like they're too different, too sensitive, too intense for the world? He responded with no hesitation. Honor it. Honor your intensity. Honor your depth. Honor the fact that you feel what others ignore. It means you're alive. It means you haven't turned to stone. And that is sacred. Jung believed the world doesn't need more people who fit in. It needs people who feel, people who remember, people who can reconnect us with what truly matters: soul, meaning, connection, truth. But to become that person, you must walk through the fire. You must be willing to lose fake belonging to gain real freedom. You must be willing to face loneliness to find your power. You must be willing to disappoint the world to stay true to yourself. That's why you felt the way you have for so long. Not because you're lost, but because you're becoming. Becoming who you really are. Becoming someone this world rarely makes room for. Becoming someone who lives from the inside out, not the outside in. Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming your whole self, and he warned, most people will never do it. They'll settle for roles, images, reputations, comfort zones. They'll stay asleep in the dream of conformity. But for the rare few, the misfits, the feelers, the old souls, that won't work. The pressure to belong becomes unbearable because it demands the death of your authenticity. And your soul won't allow it. It rebels, it resists, it erupts. That's why your sadness matters. That's why your restlessness is sacred. It's your soul knocking, saying, wake up. Stop trying to shrink to fit a space you've outgrown. Stop pretending you're normal when you're not. Stop silencing yourself just to be accepted. Because acceptance that costs you your truth isn't love, it's control. Jung shared a haunting truth in this interview. Loneliness does not come from being alone, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. That's it, isn't it? You've been surrounded by people yet starved for real connection. You've laughed with others, but cried alone. You've played the role, but never felt fully seen. Because the parts of you that matter most, your depth, your questions, your truth, feel too heavy for the surface-level world, but you're not too much. You're just surrounded by too little. The issue isn't you. It's that you haven't yet found the people who speak your language, the ones who feel you, the ones who don't need you to edit yourself, tone it down, or wear a mask. The ones who recognize your energy before you even say a word, and you will find them, but only after you fully claim yourself. Jung insisted, "The outer world always mirrors the inner." The more you align with your truth, the more life aligns around you. The more you accept your soul, the more you attract what resonates with it. But it begins with a decision, a sacred, terrifying decision. To stop running, to stop hiding, to stop negotiating your worth, to stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. You are not here to explain yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You are not here to prove yourself to those who only value your performance, not your presence. You are not here to spend your life apologizing for your light just because it makes others squint. You are here to be real. You are here to be whole. You are here to be free. And yes, that may cost you temporary comfort. It may cost you shallow friendships. It may cost you the illusion of belonging. But what you gain in return is everything. Real self-love, real alignment, real soul connection, real purpose. Jung said it clearly. The most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely. And yet, it's the most liberating thing you will ever do. So if you've walked through life feeling like you don't belong, don't despair. Don't give up. Don't twist yourself just to be liked. Instead, lean in. Own it. Trust it. Let that ache guide you back home. You are not here to belong to the world. You are here to belong to yourself. And in doing so, the world will find its way to you, not the noisy world, not the shallow world, but the soul-aligned world. The people, places, and moments that recognize your vibration because it mirrors their own. So breathe, let go, and rise. You are not broken. You are not lost. You are not alone. You are a message the world hasn't learned to read yet. But one day, it will. And when it does, everything will make sense.